So audio maker can be useful. We've seen screen mask. Talk and type is something you're really likely familiar with, and it's actually not working on my computer at this moment. So again, in terms of working with technology, we've got to sometimes be a little bit flexible. So I can't actually show you how it works, but I can show you the way you would make it work. Quite simple. You've got your cursor where you'd like to start typing. You hit talk and type. Now, at this point, this is when you see this red microphone. Usually the words that I'm saying would start to be typed out here. I can use punctuation. See, sorry, didn't hear that. It's telling me it doesn't understand or can't use the microphone right now. I'm not sure why. But you can use punctuation as you do with your cell phones, for example, or in other speech-to-text technology. So you would say, for example, this sentence, the cat walked in silence, period. And it would type that out for you. Translator is another neat tool. If you're reading and don't understand a word because perhaps the language you're reading in isn't your first language, you can highlight it and hit translator and then have the word in other languages read out. So the word in English is banana.
Banana.
And the word in
Plátano.
another language is plátano.
Plátano.
Here are and these are quite neat. You can select certain text that you want to highlight. Simply select the text, hit the highlighter color, and you can choose different colors. If the pieces of information happen to be different in category, for example. So perhaps I wanted the yellow to go together, and I found like these bits of information were related, and then I wanted a little bit of green highlighting as well, and I felt like they were related. Well, cool thing is by hitting this little highlighter loop up here, I can collect these highlights, click it. It's going to sort the highlights by color. I also have the option of sorting them by position. And it's going to collect all of the ones that are checked, so I'll leave them all checked. And hit OK. Now it's going to tell me here that a new document is being created, and very quickly one pops up, Google Docs. It's collected the yellow highlights first and then the green highlights. So it's reordered the information, and this can be really helpful when you're doing online research. Of course, I can change my title up here, highlights, we'll call it Arrested Development. Oh, sheesh. Arrested Development, that's what I'd like to do here. And then I can continue to type here if I want more information in this document, just like that. This is a link back to the original document. So if I'd collected highlights from a Google Doc, the link will go to that Google Doc. But if I'd collected highlights from a web page, this link would go to that web page. So we'll close that up. Don't need it any longer. And I'd like to get rid of all these highlights now. So I'm going to select and remove highlights with this little guy up here. All right. Another useful tool that we can use with these highlighters is by selecting and then highlighting a few words, individual, determined. I could use a couple different colors perhaps, responsible maybe. And I'm going to create a vocabulary list. So I'm going to, after highlighting the words, I'm going to click vocabulary, and it tells me that a new document containing a vocabulary list is being created. That's going to open up automatically, also in a Google Doc. And here we have those words, banana, determined, etc., and a meaning, so the definition of that vocabulary is automatically filled in, a symbol to represent it, and then an area where I can put my own personal notes. So this can be also a very useful tool for when you're doing online research. We'll close that because we don't need it any longer. We'll highlight, and do you remember how to clear? Up here, clear highlights, just like that. These last two that I'm going to show you, rather these last three, 1, 2, and we didn't look at this one. Check it over here. These actually won't work in functionality entirely because my microphone doesn't seem to be working, but by clicking voice note, I can typically record a note and have it inserted into a specific area of my document. So I kind of like that idea. It's just like a little ability to put, rather than a typed side note, a verbal side note that you can then replay later. Reading aloud, practice reading aloud, is where I would highlight some text, click the button, and in a separate window, it would be available here for me to work with using all of these tools that we're now familiar with from the Google Read and Write toolbar: translator, picture dictionary, and regular dictionary. Hover speech is a new one, so by turning hover speech on, there the purple bar indicates it's on, I can hover over a sentence like this.
These two decisions show that he does not want to sun and east wind.
Pausing it will just stop it in the middle, or stopping it entirely will delete that highlight
Finally,
area.
Michael is clearly...
And then I want to turn it off so that where my mouse goes, it doesn't continue reading at me. Main functionality of this feature isn't working, but I would typically be able to hit start recording, and I would be able to read what is here and then play it back so I can hear myself reading it, compared perhaps to what it sounds like when it's read by Google. And then I can even send it off to, for example, my teacher if I'm a student and my teacher wants to hear me reading out loud. But we're going to close that down because we're nearly at the end of this tutorial. Now, the reason I left check it till the end is that I just wanted you to be familiar with a couple of the other tools and how it all works. But this is sort of like a final checking my information. And I'm simply going to turn it on, and it's going to highlight in purple, or underline rather, in purple, some of the mistakes in my document. So now I can hover over. The word will give me the correct spelling. So very was incorrectly spelled. I'm going to select very, and it's going to correct it for me. Where it's not sure, if I click Booth, for example, the name Bluth is spelled correctly, but Google doesn't know that, so it's wondering if it should be Blush or Blythe. I'm actually going to add Bluth to my dictionary at the bottom here. So this is if I were creating a personal dictionary, and now it doesn't tell me Bluth is wrong any longer. Here it's going to suggest some grammar. It actually thinks a comma should come in there. I'm going to accept that change. Hiring his niece, I'm going to select that and look at, I spelled that incorrectly. So I'm going to correct it like that, and irresponsible. Also, there's the correct spelling. So if I'm not sure while I'm doing this check, I can look at my dictionary, for example. It might be useful so that I can be sure I'm using the correct word. And picture dictionary might be helpful too. Irresponsible. Close those up. That takes us through the entire Google Read and Write toolbar here in a Google Doc. Now, a website works very similarly. We've got most of the same tools and functionality, although there is something called Simplify Page, which I wanted to show you. It doesn't always work. So on this particular website, if we try to simplify page, it gives me an error. So an error occurred while processing. We don't know why. So unfortunately, it doesn't work all the time. But if we have, for example, another website like Wikipedia, it actually works quite well. So here I've got a bit of information on the side here. This sidebar's got some text as well. It's a little confusing and a little overstimulating. Like my eyes are kind of not sure where to go. And if I want to simplify this, I will click this Simplify Page button, and in a new tab, it will give me the text and only the text. I can move my bar around like this, so I'm going to get it out of the way, put it at the bottom here. I thought that was kind of neat, and I can change the contrast up here. So instead of black on white, I might want to read it with white on black or blue on yellow for strong contrast. I can also simplify further. So this is going to simplify my work even further. Normally there'd be a plus sign here, or rather probably a minus sign here because I'm reducing text as I click this button, right until it's only the very basics. want to add a little bit more in, this would normally be a plus symbol. Perhaps mine's just not displaying properly, and it's giving me a bit more info. So I can simplify or keep it a little bit more robust, but it's easier to read here than it might be to read here. All right, well, that is going to be a wrap-up on our Google Read and Write tutorial. However, before we go, I'm going to take you to our website. So our class website, let's see here. I had this website published. Here we go. Da, da, da. Now, if we go to Learning and Tools, you have got a quick reference for tips and tricks on how to use Google Read and Write. You can click that, and in a separate window, tab, it's going to open this really handy quick reference guide. So anything that I've said should be in here, and rather than listening to this video all over again, you can just go through and find what you're looking for here. Thank you so much for watching, and best of luck. We will see you again very soon.